Ann O'Rourke.
Joe Totten.
Allie Doyle.
Thank you. Any other members wish to identify themselves?
Jeff Letwin.
Michelle Smianek.
Morning, folks. The second item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes. Are there any corrections to the minutes? Seeing none, is there a motion to approve the minutes? Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. The minutes were approved. Next, we have a briefing, 5-year service and operation trend. Amy?
Thank you. Good morning, everyone.
What's your new title?
My title is Chief Development Officer. I'm Amy
Okay.
Silverman.
Just
Good
wanted
morning.
to check that out.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that, John. Hi, everyone. I'm here to provide a brief update at request from our last month's Planning and Stakeholder Relations Committee on our changes to service levels and operators since the pandemic began. So I'll speak for a moment and then I'll turn it over to my colleague. But starting with the service levels on the slide here, we have 4 different things going on. I'm going to speak to the lines on the graph. There's a yellow, a green, and a blue line. And those lines show us how each quarterly or now 3 times a year service change, our service levels have changed since the pre-pandemic service schedule, which was actually the March 2020 schedule because that was planned well in advance of March 2020. So it went into effect on in March of 2020, and you can see in yellow there a couple, excuse me, a couple iterations later, we began lowering our service levels in response to the pandemic and then in response to operator shortages. So the yellow represents our weekday change in service over the last 4 years, and that has changed by dropping 15.6% since pre-pandemic levels. Our Saturday service is shown in green on the chart, and that has actually increased just a very small amount, 0.4% since the pandemic began. And our Sunday service is shown in the blue line, and that has increased 3.8% since the pandemic began. The reasons for the weekend service increases are actually because early on in the pandemic, we published updates to our service standards to require more of our local routes to have 7-day-a-week service. So this was something we had been interested in doing prior to the pandemic, and then early on in the pandemic, it became very apparent that our essential workers really needed that 7-day-a-week access to work and other necessities of life. So that has really not changed. The weekend service has remained relatively stable throughout the last 4 years, while you see in the yellow line, the weekday service has notched down. Most of our service changes have notched down a little bit since March of 2020. So overall, our change in weekly service has been a reduction of about 10.5%. And then I will welcome my colleague Inez Colon up here to talk about the operator numbers.
Morning, Inez.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. As we obviously all know, the pandemic triggered one of the worst job crises since the Great Depression. As a result, the public transit industry has been challenged to attract, hire, and retain bus and rail operators. PRT has not been immune from these challenges. The downward operator trend for the periods that are shown on the slide are mainly attributable to retirements, the COVID mandate, which resulted in 48 operators separating from PRT, and the loss of 7 employees to this disease. Since our concern was the well-being of our employees and continues to be so, we had fewer and smaller operator classes during that time period. With the renewed and concerted effort to increase the operator ranks to historical levels, PRT has taken the following actions, and that is increase the hourly training rate from $15 to $19 an hour. We also have reduced the waiting period to reapply to PRT from 1 year to 6 months. We have temporarily suspended the student operator testing. For individuals that have a CDL, we do give them within 90 days of employment a $1,000 bonus. And for those individuals that have a CDL with passenger endorsement, we award them $1,500. We've expanded our advertisement sourcing outlets. And in December of 2023, to my surprise, we had 685 individuals in a pool. We have also revamped or updated our employment process so that it's more automated. And in addition to that, we have virtual interviews. And in August, when we lifted, August 31st of 23, when we lifted or ended the COVID mandate, it resulted in a reinstatement of 10 operators around October, November of 2023. And for the first time in the history of this company, we held an open house interviewing event on our property. And I have to thank communications, operations, and my team, because we processed within 6 hours 71 individuals that are queued for training opportunities here at PRT. And in order for us to handle the increased number of individuals in the pool in a timely basis, we are anticipating increasing the instructors so that they can train these individuals quickly. So once again, we can restore our levels with respect to operators as they were in the past. Are there any questions about anything with respect to the operators?
No, but I think you're doing an excellent job, Inez, and your team. You did give credit for other folks, which I think is important.
It's a collaborative effort, and finding individuals to be employed here is one thing, but we need operations to train them. And it's a nice dance, if you will, because there's a limited amount of time now that we can have individuals in a holding pattern waiting to be employed at PRT, because everything that we're doing today is in line with the marketplace, our industry, and our focus in the past has been primarily to be competitive externally. And now we're looking at what can we do so that we can increase our capacity to train these individuals, because they're not waiting for us. They're giving us a limited amount of time and then they're gone.
Okay, well, thank you, Inez. Yeah.
Thank
Any
you.
questions? Go ahead.
I will
Stephanie?
just to comment. I think you're doing a great job as well. You know, I hear people talk about being a new employee and operator for PRT now. When I'm out and about, and they're excited, the graduating classes, they're excited about it, and what you guys have done and how you have ramped up your process, it's just been awesome. Congratulations. Keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Any other questions of committee members or board members? Seeing none, thanks again. You're still up, Amy, huh?
Right, I'm gonna jump us to the next item here, which is a brief update on our PRTX University Line Bus Rapid Transit project. So just a quick update on this one, as I don't think we've done one for a few months. I wanted to fill everyone in on what is happening, both on the construction side and on the service side. So this is a map of downtown Pittsburgh. This is the infrastructure sort of zone that we have planned for the University Line BRT project. You can see in red arrows on the map indicates the direction of travel and bus lanes that will eventually be built out to support the University Line in downtown. That's on 5th Ave, Liberty Ave, and 6th Avenue. We have yellow arrows indicating areas that the buses will travel without a bus-only lane on that loop, which are mostly sort of at the edge of downtown as we head into Uptown. And then there are 5 green boxes on this map. Those indicate the 5 areas where we will be building out BRT stations, so people can get on and off the line once it is built. The station, this is not anything new, but just to recap for everyone what a typical station will look like. The stations may be different lengths depending on the specific area and how much passenger activity we have at those areas. For the most part, they'll either be 30 or 60 feet long. The one shown here, I believe, is a 30-foot long, so about twice the length of a typical bus shelter. They'll have lots of amenities inside them, including wayfinding maps, a digital display that will show real-time arrival information of our buses, signage in Braille, benches with backs, areas without benches for people in wheelchairs or with strollers or other mobility devices to wait, advertising space, ticket validators, and fare vending machines, as well as emergency phone and cameras and blue lights in case of any incidents, and then trash receptacles, as well as communications and electrical cabinets. They will also have bike racks, which are not shown here on this diagram, but will be at each station as well. This is a rendering of what that typical station may look like at one of our downtown stations. This is the Market Square station. This is on 5th Avenue looking east at the corner of Liberty Avenue on the edge of the little triangle park there where 5th and Liberty come together. This area is under construction right now for some utility subsurface work. And this is ultimately generally what that will look like when it is built out, just to give you a sense of what it will look like in space. So right now, this project has been bucketed into 2 different construction phases. The phase 1 is downtown, which I've showed the map for. Phase 2 will begin. We're working on that right now to ramp up towards construction for phase 2, which will be Uptown and Oakland. Parts of the corridor that will likely begin sometime in 2025, although we will be advancing those construction efforts this year. So we'll have more detailed timeline here in a few months for that. But the phase 1 is downtown. It's ongoing right now. It began in September, so we're in month 5. Things are moving along, so we have lots of activity happening in lots of different places. It's sort of micro activity, and it's changing day to day. But we have road work and sidewalk work happening. There is subsurface work happening to make sure that our utilities and other electrical and communications are set up under the sidewalks. Mostly at the station areas. And then we're also now beginning some of the signal work. So there are, I believe, 28 locations, not intersections, but locations. If you think of one intersection as having four signal locations within it, at least 28 locations where we will be doing signal work. And that also, for the most part, has to happen underneath either the road or the sidewalk as well. So right now we're mostly in the subsurface phase of construction. We're doing phased work so that we do things underground, then we patch. We will come back later to do the above ground work and then finish out. So this work will continue to happen in downtown throughout the remainder of calendar year 2024. The final steps will include the station construction itself and the amenities build out, as well as painting the bus lane with its final finish, which will be a red finish throughout the loop in those areas with the red arrows that I indicated on the map. And then I also wanted to take a moment to talk about the ridership, since we had the BRT service changes back in October. So on October 1st, we had 4 major service reductions go into effect that are associated with the long-term build out of this BRT project. Those were on the 61D, the 71A, C, and D. On those 4 routes, we now have data October through December. I don't have January yet, but we should soon. So for October, November, and December, we saw on average a ridership reduction on those 4 routes, which is to be expected. We shortened them of about 25%. And then there were 4 routes that remained going all the way into downtown. During that period, those 4 routes had a ridership growth of 35%. And then all 8 of the routes together, we sort of call them a collection of sister routes, if you will, the 61 and 71 series routes, during that 3-month period had a net change of 3% growth in ridership. And to give you a sense for, is that just growth that's typical of the system in its entirety? Our whole bus network during that 3-month period had a growth of 4% ridership. So pretty similar to the system as a whole. We're not seeing significant changes in who is riding as a result of these service changes. We are continuing to see crowding, and we're continuing to look to ways that we can address that, especially as our operator numbers trend upwards that Inez spoke about. We will on Sunday, as Philip presented last month, be adding 2 trips on the 71B route in the morning peak. That's when we're seeing a lot of the overcrowding still in downtown heading towards Oakland for the morning workers getting to school and work. And then just a reminder for everybody that if you want to stay more in touch with this project specifically, we do have a website for the project, which is rideprt.org/BRT. B as in bus rapid transit. And there is also a news hub that you can find on that site that you can sign up to receive our newsletter for the project so that you can stay more up to date with details, especially as we move through construction phases. That is all I have now.
Thank you, Amy. Phase 3, where do we stand with that? I mean, is there any time frame at all on that?
Not quite yet. So as a reminder for folks, we have this project, we have phase 1 and phase 2 of construction that are sort of formally part of this project and the funding of this project that we received from the FTA. That takes us downtown, uptown, and into Oakland. There are 2 branches of the project that are proposed to have stations with the amenities, not bus lanes, but stations heading all the way up into Highland Park and then heading up into Squirrel Hill and through Greenfield. Those 2 branches of station amenities and stations got put on sort of a delayed project timeline as we were trying to compile all the funding sources of this project. We have advanced a grant for the Squirrel Hill branch of the project through the CMAQ program. We've not yet advanced a grant for the Highland Park branch. That one has less ridership. So we got the grant out first for the Squirrel Hill branch and hope to find a grant shortly to be able to get us moving to the Highland Park branch. So if we're successful in getting those grants, we would then develop a timeline to build those out. They will follow the Uptown and Oakland phases of construction though, so we're still talking a few years out.
So but there haven't been any change in the number of stops on phase 1 and 2. Same amount we started with. There's not been any increase or decrease in those stops, you know?
In the proposed number of stations in downtown, uptown, and Oakland, we haven't
saying there's no change.
We've not made any changes to how many stations we're planning to build out for about 2 or 3 years now. So there were changes through the planning process to add additional stations from the original plan. I know in particular in the Soho area and also on 5th Avenue in Oakland, we did end up adding additional stations to make sure we had closer spacing at the community's request. Yeah, so we haven't changed anything with those plans in a few years.
Because uptown, as you know, is an interesting issue. Are there any questions of committee members of Amy? Other members, any questions? If in past practice, if there's any stakeholders in the audience that have a question, this would be the time that you would ask that question. It's specific to what we talked about today. Okay, seeing no questions, do I have a motion to adjourn? Thank you, Amy.
Thank you.
Do I have a motion to adjourn? Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, we're all standing adjournment until next month. Thank you very much, guys.
Good job, Amy.
Give everybody a second to switch your paperwork over for the finance committee. Okay, we'll get started with the finance committee for February 13th, 2024. Our first item of business is a roll call. Committee member Liptak, are you present?
Yes, I am. I also want to note I was present for the last meeting. I just didn't want to interrupt the presentation. Thank you.
Thanks. Representative Piscatano
Here.
and committee member Totten.
Here.
Thank you. Any other board members present, please identify yourselves.
Jeff Letwin.
John Tay.
Stephanie. Stephanie Terman,
Allie Doyle.
Michelle Smianik,
Lori Mizgorski, and I did come in late to the previous meeting. Thank you.
Okay, great. We'll start next with the approval of the minutes of the January 18th Finance Committee meeting. Are there any comments or revisions to those meeting minutes? Okay, hearing none, do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
Motion.
A second? All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, minutes are approved. We'll move on to our resolutions for today. And our first one is authorization to extend and amend agreement for financial audit and pension plan audit services. Dominica?
Good morning, Madam Chair and fellow board members. The first resolution, in September 2020, Pittsburgh Regional Transit issued an RFP for financial audit and pension plan audit services in accordance with its policies for professional services solicitations. The services include, but are not limited to, performing the annual single financial audit and annual pension audits. In February 2021, PRT's board approved a 3-year agreement for a total authorized not to exceed amount of $313,500, with the option for 2 additional years to be exercised at PRT's sole discretion. The work performed by the auditing firm Mayer Dussel has been satisfactory and in contractual compliance. The current agreement expires on March 25th, 2024, and it is in PRT's best interest to exercise the first option year and increase the not to exceed amount by $112,500. This work would continue to be performed on a work order basis. This resolution extends the terms of the agreement to March 25, 2025, and further increases the contractual total authorized not to exceed amount from $313,500 to $426,000.
That seems pretty extensive. I mean, that's a big increase, right?
Well, the initial agreement was about 313 for 3 years. And so extending it by 1 year increases it almost, let me move back, sorry. 112, so that's pretty on par with what the prior years were.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? All right, do I have a motion to forward this resolution for the full board's consideration?
So moved.
Motion.
Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Our next resolution is authorization to extend and amend agreement for financial advisory agreement.
So in September 2020 as well, Pittsburgh Regional Transit issued an RFP for financial advisory services to obtain a pool of qualified consultants to provide financial advisory services. The services include, but may not be limited to, financial and strategic planning services. And the work that has been performed by the consultants has been satisfactory to date. PRT's board in February 2021 authorized to award 2 agreements to PFM Financial Advisors, LLC, and NW Financial Group, LLC, for an initial term of 3 years and a not to exceed amount of $400,000. The agreements also contain 2 option years to be exercised by PRT at its sole discretion. The initial 3-year term of the agreement expires April 30th, 2024. And PRT has determined that it is in its best interest to exercise the first option year, extending the term of the agreement from April 30, 2024 through April 30th, 2025, with no increase to the previously authorized total not to exceed amount of the agreement.
Motion to forward this for the full board's consideration.
Motion.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Our next resolution is authorization to enter into an agreement to provide fair model development services.
Thank you. PRT requires a contractor to provide fair model development, fair consulting, and related Title VI fair equity analysis services. The required services include, but are not limited to, developing a fair model to project the fiscal impacts of potential fare changes and conduct Title VI analyses required by the Federal Transit Administration when implementing certain fare changes. Consistent with PRT's board-adopted procurement policy and procedures for professional services solicitations, PRT issued a request for proposal and received 4 proposals. An evaluation committee made up of members from the Finance, HR, and Planning and Development divisions identified NWC Partners, Inc., a certified Pennsylvania DBE, as the highest rated proposer. The initial term would be for a 3-year period with the option for an additional 2 years at the sole discretion of PRT. The agreement would be for a total authorized not to exceed amount of $424,940.
Okay, are there any questions? Hearing none, do I have a motion to forward this for the full board's consideration?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. And finally, resolution to authorize the adoption and implementation of a debt policy.
So on April 28th, 2023, PRT's board passed a resolution authorizing PRT to accept PennDOT's 2022 Act 44 performance review of PRT and the related 2023 Act 44 action plan. The action plan contains various recommendations made by PennDOT for PRT to meet its Act 44 performance targets and related improvement strategies over the next 5-year Act 44 review period. Of these action items, one was for PRT to adopt a formal debt policy, and this policy will formalize sound parameters and provide guidance governing the issuance, management, continuing evaluation of, and reporting on all debt obligations issued or incurred by PRT. Over the past several months, PRT's finance division, in consultation with its internal legal counsel and external financial advisors and legal counsel, have developed a proposed debt policy attached to the resolution as Exhibit A. This slide just shows the current debt obligations that PRT has outstanding. The current debt that we have is expected to mature in fiscal year 2029.
Any questions? To forward this for the full board's consideration.
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries. And our last item of business is a review of the January 2024 financial statements.
So for January 2024, passenger revenues continues to trend upwards in a positive direction, kind of following what Amy talked about a little earlier this morning. For operating income or revenues for the month of January, the total operating income was total operating income was about $800,000 over budgeted amounts, and that's due to higher passenger revenues, access revenues, and interest income. Total expense for the month was about $1,700,000 below budgeted amounts, and that's due to vacancies as with previous months. Total subsidies for the month of January was $1.9 million above budgeted amounts, and that is due to increased invoicing. And total revenues for January year to date are $1.1 million above budgeted amounts. Passenger fares are about spot on with the budgeted amounts. However, interest income is still trending much higher than budgeted, with access and other revenues a bit lower than budgeted. Expenses for January year-to-date are $27.1 million below budgeted amounts, and that again is due to wages and benefits being lower than budgeted due to vacancies. For subsidies in January, subsidies are $2.7 million higher than budgeted, and that is again because of higher invoicing due to federal invoicing and preventative maintenance invoicing. As for operating reserves, PRT began the month of January with $333.1 million in operating reserves. During the month, total cash inflows were $53.3 million. That included $21.8 million from the Commonwealth and $16.8 million in federal stimulus dollars. During January, PRT had cash outflows of $40.6 million for wages, salaries, benefits, materials, and supplies. And PRT ended the month of January with $345.8 million in operating reserves. That is all that I have. Any questions?
Any questions from committee or board members on the financial statements?
Just curious, might not have anything to do with this, but there's a new, the governor's new budget. Have we taken a look at that? And if it's passed, what that kind of impact would be?
Yes, so we've been making some forecasts as our budget currently is and how, as revenue is currently coming in and what the impact of that increase would have on our budget if it were to occur. Catherine has been having several meetings with folks in Harrisburg and locally and internally. We've been having several discussions about plans.
Yeah, I think it was 40 million, is that?
Yeah, about 39.1, yeah.
Which is good. I just wondered if we had taken a look at that.
Yes, so there would be that hopefully, and then also the local match that would go with that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, hearing none, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So
Motion.
moved.
I'll take that as a second as well, so we stand adjourned.
Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Performance Oversight Committee meeting. If you would just take a moment, collect yourselves and your papers, and we will begin. Good morning, everyone. My name is Michelle Smianik, so welcome to the Performance Oversight Committee. We'll call the meeting to order. Our first item of business this morning is roll call. Committee member Lori Mizgorski, are you present?
Yes, I'm here.
Representative Nick Piscatano, are you present?
I'm here.
Great, thank you both. Our second item of business is approval of our meeting minutes of the January 18th, 2024 Performance Oversight. Do I have
Michelle,
any corrections?
don't you want to, aren't you calling for other board members? Jeff Letwin is present.
Thank you, Jeff. Sorry for the oversight. Any other board members, please state your name for the record.
Hannah Liptak.
Allie Doyle.
John Tagg. Thanks for the credit, Jeff.
Any other board members? All right, thank you. Sorry about that, everyone. All right, continuing then, item number 2 would be approval of our meeting minutes from our past meeting for January 18th. Do I have any changes or corrections to those meeting minutes? Hearing no changes or corrections, could I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second? I'll second
Second.
that. Thank you, Nick. All in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, thank you so much. Item number 3, our proposed resolutions for this morning. Good morning. How are you doing, Ms. Brown?
Good morning, Madam Chair. Doing well. Good morning, honorable members. I'm Keisha Brown, Director of Procurement, and we have 6 items to present today. The first item is remanufacture exchange fuel injectors. Bid B23-12-77A was publicly advertised and e-business documents were distributed to 100 and 73 suppliers. They were notified of the opportunity. 2 suppliers accepted the invitation and 2 bids were received and in furnishing and delivering of remanufactured exchange commons recon fuel injector kits. These kits are utilized in the maintenance of PRT's bus fleet over a 1-year period with no renewal options available. The apparent low bidder was unable to meet the specifications. In accordance with section 3.0 titled Technical Requirements of the Solicitation, subsection 3.1, which states in part, the bidder must be an authorized common dealer and shall provide supporting documentation with the bid. The apparent low bidder did not meet the authorized common dealer requirement and therefore found to be non-responsive and ineligible for award. PRT recommends that a contract be awarded to the lowest responsive and responsible bidder, Cummins Incorporated, in the estimated amount of $1,036,996, and 80 cents. This price represents a 22% increase over the previous contract unit price for the items 1 year ago. Staff have determined the pricing to be fair and reasonable and consistent with the funds budgeted. Our next item is EGR, exhaust gas recirculation coolers. This is B 23-1278A, which was publicly advertised, and e-business documents were distributed. 255 suppliers were notified of the bid opportunity. 2 suppliers accepted the invitation and 2 bids were received to furnish and deliver EGR coolers utilized in the maintenance of PRT bus fleets over a 1-year period with no renewal option available. PRT's recommendation is that a contract be awarded to the lowest responsive and responsible bidder, Cummins Inc., in the estimated amount of $164,862.10. This price represents a 1% increase over the previous contract for these items 1 year ago. Staff have determined the pricing to be fair and reasonable and consistent with the funds budgeted. The next item, number 3, is for LRV primary suspension springs. This bid is B 23-12-81A. It was publicly advertised and e-business documents were distributed. 206 suppliers were notified of the bid opportunity. 2 suppliers accepted the invitation and 2 bids were received to furnish and deliver primary suspension springs utilized to maintain PRT's LRV fleet over a 1-year period with no renewal options available. 1 bidder was unable to meet the specification. In accordance with section 2.0 technical data, which states that the parts shall be manufactured by Metacalcio or approved equal. The items offered were not manufactured by Metacalcio or an approved equal. In addition, the bidder was also non-responsive to section 8.2 delivery, which states in part that the supplier shall provide delivery of items and quantities indicated on purchase order within 60 days of purchase order date. The supplier was unable to meet the 60-day requirement and therefore found to be non-responsive and ineligible for award. PRT recommendation is that a contract be awarded to the lowest responsive and responsible bidder, CAF USA Inc. The estimated amount of $146,880. The delta of the difference between the lowest bidder and the awardee is $18,015. The price represents no change in unit pricing from the previous contract 3 years ago. Staff determined the pricing to be fair and reasonable and consistent with the funds budgeted. Next item, number 4, is for refrigerants. That bid number is B23-12-82A. It was publicly advertised and e-business documents were distributed. 301 suppliers were notified of the bid opportunities. 2 suppliers accepted the invitation and 2 bids were received to furnish and deliver R-407C refrigerants used in the maintenance of HVAC systems on PRT bus fleet over a 1-year period with no renewal options available. The recommendation is that a contract be awarded to the lowest responsive and responsible bidder, North American Refrigerants, Inc., in the estimated amount of $176,988. This price represents a 33% decrease over the previous contract prices for these items 1 year ago. Staff have determined the pricing to be fair and reasonable and consistent with the funds budgeted. The next two items for transparency is asking to participate in a cooperative contract with the state of Pennsylvania. Number 5 is for Ford Escape vehicles. This is a CoStar state schedule contract. The Commonwealth of Pennsylvania Department of General Services Cooperative Purchasing Program, CoStar, has awarded a contract under the respective state schedule, CoStar-025, for the purchase of municipal work vehicles. Effective date of the contract is from December 7, 2023 through December 7, 2024, and PRT wishes to piggyback and make purchases under the terms and conditions of the contract. The purchase is for 23 SUVs, Ford Escape 2023, under the terms and conditions of the respective contract number 025 E23607, awarded to Whitmire Ford, Inc. These vehicles will be used by PRT's non-revenue maintenance department. The purchase will replace vehicles that are at least 10 years old and or have in excess of 100,000 miles and are beyond their useful service life. The recommendation is that we award under the same terms and conditions of the Pennsylvania DGS CoStar contract municipal work vehicles to Whitmore Ford, Inc. in the estimated amount of $724,500. The staff have determined that the pricing of the Pennsylvania state schedule to be fair and reasonable and consistent with the funds budgeted. The last item, as stated, is a co-op that we're wishing to piggyback off of. This item is for Ford Escape upfits, and this is also a CoStar state schedule. The Commonwealth of Pennsylvania Department of General Services Cooperative Purchasing Program awarded a contract under the respective state schedule CoStar-012 for the purchase of emergency responder equipment and supplies to outfit PRT vehicles with amber lights that will increase visibility and operate safely on PRT's busways. The effective date of the contract is from July 27, 2022 through July 27, 2024. PRT wishes to piggyback and make purchases under the terms and conditions of the cooperative contract number 012-E22-271 awarded to PA Public Safety. The cooperative recommendation is that PRT be allowed to piggyback this contract for emergency responder equipment and supplies to PA Public Safety in an estimated amount of $25,512.98. Staff have determined that the pricing on the Pennsylvania state schedule to be fair and reasonable and consistent with the funds budgeted. Are there any questions?
Thank you, Quisha. That really keeps showing us some of these swings between a minus 33% decrease, which is wonderful, and then plus 22% increase. So thank you for the comprehensive report. Are there any questions from our committee members for Quisha? Hearing none to any of the other board members. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I looked up what the EGR was, so I don't have to ask that question. It's an exhaust gas recirculation, just in case anybody was wondering.
I'm sorry, I thought I spoke on that. I did have it in parentheses. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you, Lori.
Michelle.
Yes, go ahead. I was just going to ask for any other board members. I did not forget you, JT.
Now, the Escape, they're not electric vehicles?
No, sir.
Okay. Is there, I guess Ford doesn't make them, that model, the Ford Escape. I just was curious why they weren't electric.
Yes, I appreciate the question and thank you. I can't speak intelligently to that right now, but I certainly can go back and provide that information to you expeditiously.
Speaking intelligently.
Oh, okay, there we go. Thank you so much.
Thank
Morning, Mr.
you.
Tag. So we are continuing to look at different fuel types for non-revenue vehicles. We're not quite upfit at the auto shop yet, but we do research those. These are gasoline vehicles to keep the fleet moving. We didn't purchase vehicles last year, excuse me, because we had some struggles with the auto industry after COVID. So these ones are quite old. We need to get them in the pipeline, but it is something my zero emission program manager and my manager non-revenue vehicles is constantly looking at. And we do have in the plans and in the works, just not quite yet.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, Mr. Manick, if I could opine upon that, this is Jen. We at the county are having similar difficulties procuring alternate fuel vehicles, electrics. And when you get to that point where you have these vehicles that need to be replaced out, you may have to wait a year to get the electrics. So I understand what the Port Authority is going through. I hope that they continue to have a plan, like we do at the county, continue to try to procure as many as we can. It just takes a long time for these cars to come in, or trucks. It really does. So I appreciate the explanation and the question. I thought it was a good question as well.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jen. Any other questions of our members? Hearing no questions, can I have a motion to move this forward to our board meeting next Friday?
Motion.
May I have a second?
Second.
Second. All in favor, state aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Very good. Thank you very much. All right, I have no other items on the agenda for us this morning. Could I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Second. Thank you. Performance Oversight Committee is adjourned until next month. Thank you, everyone.
Okay, we'll get the Technology Committee moving. If everyone just get their agendas. We have a short agenda today. So I would like to get started. I'd like to call the meeting of the Technology Committee to order. I'd like to first start with a roll call. Committee members first, please. I believe it's just me and Ms. Muskorski.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, thank you. Would all other members please identify themselves at this time, or on the phone, or in person?
Jeff Letwin.
Joe Todd.
John Tagg.
Allie Doyle.
John.
Nick Pisatana.
Michelle Smianik.
Anna Borick.
Okay, thank you very much. The first item of business is approval of the minutes from the last committee meeting. If there's no corrections, I'd ask for a motion to approve.
So moved.
And I will second that. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, the first item of business that we have is Keisha's up again. Ms. Brown, can you please present the awarding of bids?
Good morning, Vice Chair Lipchak. This is Jeffrey Devlin. We do not have any bids. We have one resolution this morning.
I'm sorry, what am I looking at here? I apologize. That's my fault. I'm looking here. I apologize. You're right, wrong one. I was looking at one of the other agendas from the other committee meetings. I apologize. Yes, could you please present the resolution? Listen, everyone makes a mistake. You guys can all remind me of that when you see me next Friday. Okay, so please present the resolution, and I apologize.
No worries at all. So before I present this one resolution, I want to provide a little bit of background information on our fare systems refresh, of which this resolution is one part. As many of you are aware, we have two fare systems here in place, Scheid and Bachman, which has been in place about 14 years now, and the Masabi system. I'm sorry, John? I thought you were telling me the exact number of years. And the Masabi system, which we started to implement about 5 years ago. And we've been very pleased with the Masabi system over the years. The Scheid and Bachman has actually served us very well too over the years. Before I get into the background on our fare systems refresh, I do want to recognize that we have many, many people who are really involved with keeping these systems running. Specifically on our fare system side, we have Terry Riley and Stephen Angelo. From our finance side, we have Tia Gunn, Joe Maritato, Shirley Henderson, and Bruce Hill. Customer service answers calls from our riders at John Beeler's group. And then, of course, from public relations and marketing, we have the Adam Brandoff and Dante Calderon that have been integral to really making sure all these systems work seamlessly, not to mention Chuck Coffee and all the folks out at the garages and the operators to keep things running. So what we're looking at moving forward with now is our fare systems refresh, which is going to take a couple years to get to where we need to go. One of the steps which we're going to present today is a replacement of our fare vending machines that are out on the street. This will also include over time new smart cards that connect to our Masabi Ready to Ride system. And then finally, after that, moving our fare boxes on our vehicles to be cash only, because the new cards and the existing mobile app can use our Masabi validators that are on the vehicles now.
So you're saying we're replacing the boxes? that are
Yes,
in there
we will
now?
replace the legacy fare boxes with cash only boxes, as cards and phones can tap on the Masabi.
So how's cash handled again?
It is on the current boxes. Yeah.
Right, but so those will exist. The cash will still be
Absolutely.
be used.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Cash is
King.
king. Yes. So really rough timeline here. This is very subject to change as things work out. But really at the very end of 2024, we'll start making announcements to our riders about the new cards coming that'll be replaced in the Connect card system, so that in 2025, folks can start transitioning off. Again, or also in Q1, Q2 of 2025, we'll start installing those new fare vending machines. The riders can start getting their new cards. And then later in 2025, when the new fare boxes get installed on vehicles, we'll no longer be accepting the Connect cards on our vehicles. Again, very subject to change, just rough timeline over the course of 2025, and many more announcements will be coming as we get closer. So the resolution we're presenting today is an authorization to enter into an agreement to provide fare vending machine refresh. Subject to the board adopted policies, we issued an RFP, which went through the evaluation process. Through this, we are looking to replace the 76 fare vending machines that are already in place, plus purchase the ones we need for the BRT system, some spares and testing units. As I said, this will replace all the existing TVMs in place already around the county. The total estimated cost for this particular resolution is $8,856,475. The contract is for 5 years with 2 option years. And the recommendation from the committee is that we issue this contract with Parkion Incorporated, which is doing business as Flowbird. If some of you park vehicles on the streets of Pittsburgh, you may recognize the Flowbird logo, as this is the same company that provides the parking meters around the city and some other regionals. So, subject to any questions, I respectfully request that this resolution be taken to the full board.
Thank you very much for the presentation. It seems this will be the first of many presentations to go over the implementation of the new system. So if I may first, as chair, ask a question. Mr. Tagg had mentioned about the cash and the other boxes. So again, these will be incorporated into the existing Scheiten-Bachmann system and then eventually phased out accordingly, correct?
Yes, there will be a
Scheiten-Bachmann,
future.
basically.
There will be a future RFP for the new fare boxes, as the ones that we have on our buses currently in rail currently are reaching end of life.
And is there anticipation that the fare boxes will be more dynamic and be able to take, whether it's cash, whether it's a card, whether it's a phone, that type of technology or whatever may be coming in the future?
The Masabi validators handle both the phone and the card, while the new fare boxes will be specifically for cash only.
Just for cash only. So
these
stay systems.
Yes, potentially. That is subject to the future RFP. We really don't know the answer to that at this time.
Okay, that was my question. Okay, any committee members, which I also want to recognize Mr. Totten. Thank you, Catherine, for reminding me that you were added to the committee. Welcome. Any committee members have any questions, please?
Yes, I have a question. Does this impact the senior Citizens Connect cards? Are they going to have to get new cards reissued earlier than their 4-year time frame? Or are they still going to be able to continue to use the cards that they have now or being reissued right now?
That is a great question. I kind of joke on this project is this octopus does not have 8 tentacles. It has about 28 tentacles, maybe 56. And yes, the senior cards is one of the aspects that will be changed out as part of this. So there will be communications coming out in 2025 for the seniors who have not quite hit that 4-year cycle to be able to switch their current senior card to the new senior card. And here comes Catherine.
Just to add to that, then anybody who's been renewing over the last 6 months or year or in the process of renewing their cards this year, are they going to have to then renew, get the new version next year? Or will there be some kind of phase out that they won't have to get the new card until it's their 4-year time frame?
You're spot on. As soon as we're able to start doing the phase out, we will start that. We're not quite there today as this resolution enables us to start the transition. But yes, you're spot on that we will do everything we can to ease that transition for our seniors so that their new cards are as useful going forward as possible. Most of this won't really take effect until 2025.
Okay, but my question is that if they're getting a new card right now, will they have to get a new card in 2025? Or will they be able to wait the full 4 years?
Let us come back to you with a better plan on an answer for that. My inclination, without talking to our ops folks, is if someone is a senior and has just gotten their ID, I would be hopeful we can find a way to accommodate them flashing that pass so they could show it when they get on and it keys in at a fare box. But I could be incorrect and there could be some other information in there. So let us come back either via correspondence with the board or with a bigger conversation at the committee about what we can do to make it easier for our seniors.
Okay, thank you.
Right. We love to see them, but if they don't want to come in and get a new card, we don't want to compel them to have to do that. I did want to address the question from the committee chair, Madam Liptak, on running 2 separate systems at locations where we have off-board fare collection. So for instance, on our new BRT corridor, stations downtown where there's a ticket vending machine, folks who have cash have the opportunity to pay before they get on the vehicle. Until we can offer that throughout the system, we realistically are looking at keeping cash on the vehicles. The goal obviously would be that everyone is paid before they get on or everybody is able to get to a fare machine 3 steps from their front door. But until we have a way where we can accommodate cash as easily off board and in as many locations as possible so someone holding cash realistically can get to that ticket very easily, we will continue to have cash on the vehicles.
Hi, Catherine.
Thank you, Catherine. Thank you very much for that. Go ahead, Michelle.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt, but I didn't want Catherine to go too far away. So what you said is if we do have a senior that presents either a Medicare card or potentially their card has expired or needed renewed, whatever, the operator does have the capability to key them in, correct?
Let me verify that. Old school, we would have that, but I want to verify on that. I mean, the interesting part on a senior ID, if it expired, it's not like you became less than 65, right? It's the kind of thing that we renew it because it keeps our database current, but it's not like you are unseniored. Much to my chagrin, having just gotten my AARP card, but here we are. So it's less an issue of, oh no, here's somebody who's, stealing a senior card and more of an administrative issue. So we'll look at let us get more information and come back to you on how we can ensure that it's convenient for the folks who've been writing us for a hot minute to keep it convenient for them.
Just a clarification. The Medicare card itself is no longer used. That's not valid anymore, right? That's my understanding of it, that seniors had to get the new cards. And I do appreciate you looking out for us seniors. I do appreciate that.
God willing, we'll all be there one day, John.
Catherine, I'm fighting it every step of the way. I do want to allow for more questions, but I did want to note with respect to the staff, this is the first really big step in a long process, and I do anticipate through committee that there'll be a lot of discussion about the rollout. I have no expectation that Catherine or the team will be able to answer any of these intricate questions because they are difficult. This is a very fluid process, and when you have all these different types of instruments for which people can ride the bus, it does become more complicated how to make sure that everyone is accommodated, including that person who has cash, which we must still continue to accommodate. And I'm very happy that you're continuing to do that, Catherine. I'm very pleased with the system. So don't want to put too much pressure to answer too many questions now. I would prefer if there was, again, what you always do, which is a very thoughtful process about how we can accommodate all these different situations. But I appreciate the board members bringing them up because, there are great concerns, specifically for people who have different fare instruments. Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions related to this resolution? Okay, hearing none, I'll ask for a motion to approve.
So moved.
Okay, second. I will second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion carries. I believe that's the only business we have on the agenda today, correct? Yes.
That is correct.
Thank you. With that, and I believe there are no other committee meetings for today, correct? Yes, okay.
Also
So
correct.
I'm hearing, okay, thank you. I appreciate that. So with that, on behalf of the board and the staff of the Port Authority, I'd like to thank everyone for their participation. And the meetings for the 15th of February are now adjourned for the committee. So everyone have a very nice day and happy belated Valentine's Day to everyone.
You too, Jim.
Thank you.